2 words, Revo Fitness. Here's a few more. Simple, 24/7, reformer Pilates, body scanners, massage chairs, squat racks, free weights, pin and plate loaded equipment, no lock-in contracts, no bullshit. All of that and more from just $9.69 a week. That's surprisingly affordable. Join now at Revo Fitness Windsor Gardens or download the Revo Fitness app. RevoFitness.com.au or find the Revo Fitness app in the App Store.
This is the Nathan, Nat and Sean podcast.
Welcome. We know for at least the next couple of days he's the Prime Minister, and perhaps beyond if the polls are to believed. You haven't ordered the moving trucks.
Well, we'll wait and see what happens. But elections are tight in Australia. That's the thing.
Yes.
And if you get 52%, then that's big.
That's a big win. Yeah.
Win.
That's true. We are talking small margins.
WA's been a bit different, of course, in the last couple of state elections.
It's certainly been strong in Labor's perspective. Ross was just asking you a question, Ross.
Yeah. The sleep one or the Joe Exotic one? They're two very different questions.
Either.
Okay, well, you're saying you're not getting much sleep, but I just want to quickly touch on, Joe Exotic, the Netflix star targeting, who's endorsing you, and he's come out and said his motivation was because he wants you to call Trump to get him out of his 21-year jail sentence for multiple counts, including a murder-for-hire plot against rival Carol Baskin. Was that strange, having him endorse you?
It was pretty strange when I got the question pretty cold.
Yeah, I bet.
So you had no idea.
So no context.
No. You addressed the National Press Club on a day that inflation is down to 2.9, the underlying, and the basic inflation rate's 2.4 is held steady, so we're in the band, and you expect all these big economic questions.
Yep.
Did I get any?
No.
Did
I
get any questions about the United States? One might have thought it might have been about tariffs.
Yes.
No. Joe Exotic.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, that is random. Nobody had that on their bingo
National
card.
Press Club had the big focus on the big issues. But
you won't be
Joe Exotic, I did watch the show years ago.
Yeah.
It was on when we were all in lockdown mode.
Yes.
Of course, we got to see more Netflix. Than
Yeah,
we
that's
did
true.
at
It
other
It captivated everybody, didn't it, that show?
It did.
So that would have been such a weird moment for
I
you
know.
yesterday.
But I must admit, I haven't thought about Joe Exotic for a number of years.
Nobody has.
And wasn't aware of what he was in jail for.
Yeah.
I knew there was
Murder
something
plot.
there.
There's a lot of charges. Murder plot was one of them.
So will you be, if you are re-elected, will you be calling the American president to ask him to be pardoned?
I think what I'll be concentrating on with President
more about
Trump
tariffs?
will be more about tariffs
More about
and jobs and
less
the
Tiger
economy.
King, more tariff. Yeah.
Although, Tiger King, well, it's
So random.
And I was wondering whether he thought, because we got Julian Assange
Yes.
released, basically.
But he knows that he's Australian, right?
Which was a good thing. Well, maybe. I have no idea what Tiger King knows about Australia.
But he has got a mullet, so maybe he's thinking that's
true.
the connection.
He might have seen the earlier photos of me with
That's true.
my mullet
Yeah.
and my earring and all that.
The Marrickville Mauler, well, that's Jeff Fennick, but yeah.
Jeff Fennick's voting Labor.
Yeah.
He's a good
Jeff
man.
Fennick, great Australian, Jeff Fennick. When you come in, I guess we're all thinking, how tired are you? But there's only 2 days to go. This has been 6 weeks. And before then it starts because you want to be able to hit the ground running
on
all
the
the
front
time.
foot.
I hit the ground
How
on
are you?
January
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
And I've been going full pelt ever since. I'm great. One of the things that I find enthuses me is just the contact with people. So yesterday afternoon in Midland, talking with people who are voting there in either
Still got all your
Hasluck
kidneys?
or Bullwinkle.
Yeah,
it was
Bullwinkle.
good.
You survived?
Yeah, so Bullwinkle is an interesting electorate because it's new, so we don't actually know.
So we're running Bullwinkle, of course, is named after a nurse.
Yeah,
we're
Vivian
running a
Bullwinkle.
nurse, Trish Cook.
Yeah.
Nothing says WA like a nurse who used to work in offshore oil and gas on a platform.
That's ticking all the boxes.
She's a cracker of a candidate.
Yeah.
And so it was great to be there supporting her. And supporting Tanya Lawrence is our current member for Hasluck as well. So it was a joint booth yesterday. And today I'll be out after this with my friend Roger Cook and having an event here in Perth. And then We're off.
Off to Adelaide, yeah.
Obviously, we're going to go east rather than west through here. So.
Yeah, that's true. I'm interested, with the pre-polling figures. I voted already. I voted last week. And they're talking in numbers like 4.5, 5 million
Are we
people.
still friends?
Don't worry. They're talking about 4.5 to 5 million people have already voted.
Yep.
Does that, and that's a new phenomenon, really. Does it change the way that you campaign?
Of course it does.
You strategize and structure your campaign.
That's one of the reasons why we got out so early on our commitments. Like we said in Adelaide in November, beginning in November, we'd take 20% off student debt and free TAFE. In December, we did cheaper childcare, 3-day guarantee for childcare and etc. in Brisbane. I did $10,000 apprenticeship support in January, and then we did the big Medicare announcements we did in Launceston in early February. You got to have your announcements out early, and then in the budget in March, of course, we did the tax cuts for every taxpayer, and so it's been rather strange that the coalition still haven't released their costings.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
And that's
today.
2 days before the election when 5 million people who've already voted.
I don't understand.
They've been a bit slow. They've stayed in the sheds, mate.
Yeah,
stayed in the sheds.
We're in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
it's
especially
almost
as there's
time
a big
on.
question mark over the cost of their nuclear policy.
Oh, and it's $600 billion.
It's not 600. I know you say that. It's not, mate. You're saying this all the time. It's not. It's not.
It is.
You know it's not. You know it's not.
I know it is.
You know it's not.
Hinkley.
No, it's not. You've been called out on this a lot.
No.
You have been.
Nope.
You have
600.
been, I've seen this a lot.
Hinkley,
in all the debates you've had, which has been 4, you keep saying 600 and you
Because
keep
that's
getting
what the
called
figures
out on
are.
it. It's not the
That's
not
what.
the figure.
How much
So
is it?
where are you getting your figures from, Prime Minister?
Well, Hinkley, for example, in the UK, it's 14 years overdue, late.
Yeah.
It's costing $90 billion. He says he'll have 7, and that's just to build.
Yes.
That's not what
Not
you
to
have
run,
to do to
not
clean,
operating costs,
Not to clean up afterwards as well.
Yeah.
It is the most expensive form of new energy, which is why he's asking taxpayers to pay for it. If it worked, the private sector would be investing. We have private sector investment in other forms of energy.
Sure.
We were down at Collie, where the coal-fired power plant will close in 2027. There's this massive battery operation there that's going to power 800,000 homes just at that site. And guess what? Taxpayers aren't getting hit with higher taxes to pay for it.
Nathan, Nat, and Sean podcast.
2 words, Revo Fitness. Here's a few more. Simple, 24/7, reformer Pilates, body scanners, massage chairs, squat racks, free weights, pin and plate loaded equipment, no lock-in contracts, no bullshit. All of that and more from just $9.69 a week. That's surprisingly affordable. Join now at Revo Fitness Blair Athol or download the Revo Fitness app. RevoFitness.com.au or find the Revo Fitness app in the App Store.
Albo, on the energy thing though, our energy's getting worse. My brother's bill almost doubled the other day because it only came out a couple of weeks ago, I believe. And I've got solar panels, so I'm and a battery at the back, so I'm in a good space with that.
So you're a bit protected from it, yeah.
But for other people, they aren't. And when you came into government, and I know hard times, so you can say that the coalition, when they were in government, they set us up to failure, or you could say that there was stuff that was going all around the world. But the facts are things have gone up, in particular power. So whether it's nuclear or gas or something else, surely there must be a better mix to make sure that things don't go forward in the rate they are.
But that's why you've got to do something. 24 out of the 28 coal-fired power stations in Australia announced their closure under the former government.
Yep.
They didn't do anything to have a replacement strategy. They had 23 policies, couldn't land one of them. We've got one policy, which is renewables backed by gas, backed by batteries, and backed by hydro. That's the policy going forward, that business have that certainty to invest in. And just as putting a solar panel on your roof makes sense for you, backed by batteries, that's why it makes sense for the economy.
On a grand scale.
As well, on a bigger scale. I'm sure that you care about the environment, but the reason why you've got solar panels and people do that, 4 million households in Australia, is because it reduces their power bills. Now, batteries, one of the things we've done is we'll give a 30% subsidy effectively to encourage that rollout of batteries because there's not enough. And that will help not just the people who have the battery, but by you having a battery and storing that power, so the sun that shines in the day, when you use it at night, what that's doing is taking pressure off the grid as well. So it's reducing everyone's power bills by having less pressure on the grid. So it makes absolute sense. We have a coherent plan. What we can't afford to do is say, stop the world until the 2040s, until these nuclear plants come along. Like, that is just not a sensible thing to do.
I'm looking into solar panels right now, actually, and that's something we want to do as a family. We've got 2 kids.
Yeah, my parents run an entire farm off solar panels.
Yeah, I mean,
solar panels with a backup generator, and their backup generator rarely kicks in.
It's a smart investment. But just going from that to text messages. Now, I heard Peter Dutton talking. He's not getting these trumpet Clive Palmer text messages. Are you getting these text messages?
No, I'm not.
Oh, why aren't you getting them?
No. Jodie is. Yeah. She's got heaps of them.
Who's she voting for?
Can I say, it sounds like it's just a stupid name in the first place.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's a deliberate nod.
Well, absolutely
This is a bloke who has too much money. Let's face it.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine being in that situation, because
it's just a big ego thing. It's unbelievable. You know, it's been good for the newspapers.
Yeah, it's hard, and it's given everyone something to joke about. Like, there's no
of that.
It's hard to imagine that any of those text messages would convince somebody to change their vote.
I wouldn't have thought
them.
so.
No,
wouldn't have thought so. Does he get to write it off as a tax write-off? Is that one of the things that?
How does it work?
No, no, he doesn't. In a word, but. It's a shock.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And Prime Minister, before we let you go, I know you're super busy and stuff. That the housing issue is one that hasn't gone away, and I know you're trying to build as many houses as possible and get the state governments in each sector to be able to keep up. But it's the supply and demand. More people coming in over the last couple of years, in particular, you know the figures, and we're not building as fast as we like. How are we able to make sure the federal government gets this going in a real positive sense so that we can stop the mad rush of people paying for houses that way over their price?
Sure. Well, 2 things. One is migration's coming down. Figures 31% decrease this year. Inevitably, when the borders opened up, you were going to get a spike. Just like there are more people coming into WA now as well than were before, funnily enough. But we have a 5% deposit to help people get into housing for first home buyers. The other thing that we're doing, though, is concentrating on supply. So the Housing Australia Future Fund is building public housing. There's 28,000 social housing dwellings, including here in the West, that are either under construction or at the last stage of planning. We are also boosting supply by our plan to build 100,000 homes for first home buyers under a scheme that allocates in, say there's we went to, in Adelaide, we went to a site that's an old industrial site, 110 dwellings, townhouses, 40 of which were reserved for first home buyers, 70 just on the open market. But that enables that investment to go ahead because there's that guarantee as well from the government.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of incentives that we need. Here in the West as well, we're working really closely with Roger Cook's government to increase supply. One of the things that the government here is doing really well, the state government, is getting some of the infrastructure in place beforehand. I went up in the electorate of Pearce with Tracy Roberts up there in the north, and building the metro before the houses is just best practice.
It does make sense,
best practice, and then community infrastructure going there as well, so that people will have a real quality of life where they live, and then you can get higher density. People will cop higher density around train stations because that makes sense, means less cars are needed as well on the road. You know, it makes cities more livable and more sustainable and more productive.
We like it. Well, we know you're a very busy man.
Absolutely.
And you had to leave 3 minutes ago. So thank you so much for joining us the last
Always
couple of
good
days.
to be here.
Good luck. We may well be speaking to you early next week. Fingers
indeed.
crossed for you and Jody.
Put in your diary, if we're successful, another trip across to Canberra.
We would love to do that.
Photo's still up on the
Mantelpiece.
on the mantelpiece there. You know, I don't know that the other bloke could leave it there. I'm just saying.
I know. I think you might be right about that.
I think you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Good idea.
The Prime Minister
Thanks
for the
so much,
time being,
guys.
and we'll know more on Saturday, of course, Anthony Albanese. Thanks, Albo.
Nathan, Nat, and Sean is a Nova podcast. For more great comedy shows like this, head to novapodcasts.com.au.
2 words, Revo Fitness. Here's a few more. Simple, 24/7, Reformer Pilates, body scanners, massage chairs, squat racks, free weights, pin and plate loaded equipment, no lock-in contracts, no bullshit. All of that and more from just $9.69 a week. That's surprisingly affordable. Join now at Revo Fitness Windsor Gardens or download the Revo Fitness app. RevoFitness.com.au or find the Revo Fitness app in the App Store.